You're not going to like my take on this. I know it. I accept it. You know what? I really do hope you can argue against me, because the more comfortable thing would be not to have my take on this, but my rule, as you know, is to be intellectually honest. I expect the same of you, so I'm going to do it. I'd love to have someone say, no, Jeff, here's why that's wrong, and then all of a sudden I say, that's a great point, you're right. I get to dump this take on this, because I don't want to. Here goes. This is not a case of idiot-proofing social media. Okay? That is an issue. It really is. Now, I know people don't like the way I'm saying that, but idiot-proofing social media is like idiot-proofing a lot of things. It's like child tampering bottles. We now live in a world where we have to idiot-proof stuff. We certainly have to idiot-proof, or we think we have to idiot-proof social media. But I'm going to take this further, because this is pretty dramatic, and it's tragic, and it's not. The popular take is punish them. My take is not going to be popular. So this is a case of lunatic-proofing social media. I think it is important that I at least draw a distinction between idiot-proofing and lunatic-proofing. This is a real case of lunatic-proofing, trying to lunatic-proof social media. And my take is not going to be comfortable for anyone. There is nothing about this tragedy that, even talking about it today, I can't spin it in any sort of comfortable way. What we're doing now, and I want you to think it through. We all have to think it through. We're looking for the perfect solution to lunatic-proofing our world. Take it a step further, we're looking to a perfect legal solution to lunatic-proofing media. Okay? And these are not new issues. It's just that social media is such a part of our life, so it's easy to blame. Or maybe you think it deserves to be blamed. My response to everything about this is going to be very, very careful what you ask for. Be careful what you ask for. Because if you say, you're wrong, Jeff, we've got to make them pay, this lunatic, we can't fix the lunatic, so we're going to fix the media companies. I'm just going to keep saying, better be careful what you ask for. I don't know how you stop. Where do you rein your own behavior in? Where do you rein it? All right, so put yourself on a jury, because that's where we're going. Put yourself on a jury and get ready for, I think, an impossible decision. I think if you're going to pretend to be a juror right now, I'll do this. I think we should all do the same. I think we really have to think this one through. This one's on us, and it is difficult. And I don't think the popular decision is going to be, we don't have an answer. We can't do this. I think this is an impossible decision. How responsible is big tech for a mass shooting involving a racist lunatic? Now, it's not just a racist lunatic. We can't just stop there, because the racist lunatic was super serving himself with racist hate. We all know that's what happens, right? So race wasn't just a component in this. Race was the driving force. He went to kill black people. So it's not just a component. It is the driving force. And he super served himself with racist hate. And now you, the jurors, are going to have to sit down and decide how much should big tech be held responsible. I mean, literally, I hate saying that, literally by percentage. How much should big tech be responsible for letting this lunatic consume massive amounts of hate, and then one day he snaps and he heads to a store to kill black people? It's what he meant to do. So how responsible, jurors, should big tech be for this dangerous, predisposed to being a dangerous lunatic, this rabid human being? How responsible should the technology companies, the media companies, how responsible should they be for this nut job, this dangerous nut job consuming racist hate? How responsible? 10%, 50%, 80%? What do you want to do? How do you want to handle this? I don't think we can go here at all. I really don't. You want to go here. You want to punish somebody. You want to fix something. You want to stop the next nut job from super serving themselves with hate. Feel free to disagree. I don't think you can go here, jurors. So you're going to make social media, that's speech, okay? Plenty of speech you don't like, no doubt. You're about to make media companies the same thing as big tobacco. I don't know a better comparison. I'm happy to hear another argument. I'm happy to say, you know what, I'm glad I don't have to keep my argument up because it's really uncomfortable. But you're saying it's mostly your fault. Now, we put him in jail. He's going to die in prison, thankfully. But now we got to look to the next level, and that is the media companies. So do hate-filled domestic terrorists who super serve themselves with online hate? Yes, they do that. Yes. Can you blame big tech? There you go. That's the case. I mean, that's it. I don't know that there's much nuance to it. Do you want to find a percentage of blame for them? All right, here's the story in case we all want to run from it. We don't want to be here. We don't want to acknowledge this. We of course, normal, decent human beings consume social media all the time, and you're not a nut job. You're not a lunatic. He is. So do you think you're fixing the next lunatic by punishing media companies? And by the way, how much do you want to punish them? Why don't you just shut them down? Why don't you just shut them down? Several major tech companies were hit with a massive wrongful death lawsuit over the racist grocery store massacre in Buffalo, New York, for allegedly feeding the convicted shooter, quote, racist, anti-Semitic, and white supremacist propaganda, end quote. The complaint names Facebook parent company Meta, Twitch owner Amazon, Google parent Alphabet, which owns YouTube, and Snapchat owner Snap, as well as Discord, Reddit, and the pathetic and hate-filled website 4chan. The shooter killed 10 black people and wounded 3 others at a Tops grocery store. He pleaded guilty to charges including domestic terrorism motivated by hate. He was sentenced to life without parole in February. He's a monster. Okay, he's a monster. And we got that part. So how guilty do you find them for making a monster, predisposed monster? How much do you want to punish them for giving the monster more ammo? That's a terrible example. Giving the monster more incentive. I mean, would he have shot people had he not been on consuming hate? I don't know. Yeah, probably. But what do you want to do to them? What do you want to do to big tech, big media? What do you want to do to them? How much? Matthew Bergman is attorney of something called the Social Media Victims Law Center. Ugh. I mean, really? Social media victims? So the nut job, I know we've punished him. I know we put him in prison for the rest of his life. That's fine. We get it. He's a monster. He shouldn't see the light of day. We get it. And somehow he's a victim. They played upon him. They didn't stop him from super serving, right, jurors? They didn't stop him from super serving himself with hate. That's what you really have to decide now. Because once we go here, I don't think there's any turning back. I really don't. And I know I'm going to sound like some conspiracy nut or I'm super defensive of the media business, but I don't know how if you, the jurors, decide to say big tech is guilty to the tune of 40% of his hate, how do you not make the argument for every nut job? Because that's the world we live in, is finding hate, consuming hate. Then what? I think it's beyond a slippery slope. I do. I think it's beyond a slippery. If you, the jurors, decide to make them pay and find them severely guilty of feeding this monster, boy, we have got a lot of juries ahead of us. A lot. All right. So the lawyer says he was motivated to commit his heinous crime by racist, anti-Semitic, and white supremacist propaganda fed to him by social media companies. That, I'm going to argue now, that is not true. That's not true. If you're sitting on a jury, and I'm going to defend them, they didn't give him that hate. Other nut jobs gave him some hate. They didn't put this stuff into his head. They didn't create the content. You better be careful about where this goes, in my opinion. As much as I hate him and the next nut job, to turn this all around and say the companies fed him propaganda. They didn't feed him the hate at all. Other people fed him the hate, and he acted on the hate. Now what to do? What are you going to do about that? The attorney goes on to say, and I do think I think most people agree. I think most of you disagree with me. And I'm sure I would love to hear a great argument against. The attorney says, these posts led him down a rabbit hole of increasingly radical sites and violent acceleration. That part's true. I mean, the crazy people, we don't know the tipping point. I don't know. I wish we did know for the next shooter. They super serve themselves with hate, and they sit there and hate more, and then one day they act. And he's a racist monster. Okay, here's my comeback. So I think a lot of people want to punish them, want to say it's their fault to a degree. Here's my comeback. Does big tech have an ethical responsibility to patrol racist rhetoric? I said ethical. Yes. Yeah. I said ethical. You're the one saying criminal and civil. I said an ethical responsibility. Then I'll take it a step further. And no one would really, you're not going to like this at all, because I think the market will fix this, or trying to fix it. Is it smart business to patrol racist rhetoric? And the answer is absolutely yes. I mean, look at the sites that traffic in lunatic rhetoric. They're not businesses. They're not. It's a bunch of losers, nut job losers themselves, that are messaging each other. It's not the ad business, because any company knows. That's what I'm saying is ethically, I do think they need to do all they can. But if you even say they're not ethical at all, Jeff, I would say from a business standpoint, they have every reason and obligation to run off nut jobs, because nut jobs are bad for business. They are. It's the very reason why they edit and as much as they do, because it's bad for business. The advertiser doesn't want to be there, and most normal human beings that want to chat and argue and do whatever don't want to be there. You don't want to be run off. So it's bad for business. And they don't want to ruin their business. They don't want to be 4chan. This is what happens when you throw the door open and say, come on in, everybody. You know who's going to come in? Losers and lunatics. That's not a good media business. So they've had it built in. The built-in incentive is, I'm going to make sure that I don't throw the door open for losers and lunatics. Did they do a perfect job? No, that's what I'm arguing. You can't perfectly edit. You can't. This lunatic, he'd find hate anywhere. He could find it on a cereal box. He's crazy. How much are they to blame for making him crazier? Be careful with that. I don't know the perfect answer. I'm just saying you better be careful with saying, well, yeah, they did. I don't know they did. But they have a built-in business incentive not to be 4chan or whatever else the equivalent of 4chan is. If it's still around, who knows? So big platforms, and I know they're the devil, and that's why I said big tobacco. They're the devil of today. But big platforms try to do the smart thing and run off as many crazy people as they can, but to hold them liable for predisposed racist lunatics, I don't think is right, and I don't think is manageable. I don't. I don't know where the policing the content. You, the jurors. I mean, we're now talking about this being done in a courtroom. We're not talking about you trying to edit yourself. We're not talking about Facebook editing. We're not talking about any of that stuff. We're talking about this is now in a courtroom where you jurors have to decide how far you want to go with this. And how far do you want to take the policing? How much do you want to punish them to police even more? Because I don't think there's a perfect answer. I think it's an impossible answer. There's no way to agree on what is too much hate, what qualifies necessarily as hate, what qualifies as distasteful speech. I mean, we can go down the list. Before we start putting a price tag on it, you better ask yourself, how much do you think? How much would you, right now as you think this through, how much do you think you would want to open the door and say, you know, Jeff, the crazy person got some hate. I don't know how much, and I don't know exactly what it did to them, but I'm going to go ahead and say they're 40% to blame or 60% to blame, because that's what you're now dealing with. And then I don't know how, once you render this verdict, how are you going to stop? What's the next jury going to do? Like, how do you not take it further? If the last jury said that Google and Facebook were 60% guilty of a lunatic going off and killing people because he's a racist, then what's the next one, 80%? That snowball example, I think it applies. I think it's an avalanche. I'm not giving them a total pass. I don't think anybody should. I don't think the public does give them a pass, by the way. I don't think they get a pass, and I think they face financial punishment all the time by letting nut jobs on. Public and economic pressure, my argument, unpopular argument, and I'd love to be convinced otherwise. I really would. But public and economic pressure, I believe, will fix the social media companies in a way that they need to be fixed, if they need to be fixed at all. There's no fix. Okay, this is what we hate admitting. There is no perfect fix for this monster or the next one.